In this episode of Salvage 1 Bus Life Adventures, we start the upgrades to the Coleman BT200x mini bike. Comes with a pretty stock motor, 196cc motor. It's got a lot of things holding it back, and we want to just tinker with it a little just to get started, see if we can unlock some of that power we know is hidden in there. So hang out here and watch the video and see if we succeed. We want to try and crack 20 miles per hour. That's our goal. Alrighty, we have the bone stock Coleman BT200x. Just came from the Coleman showroom floor. We have not done anything to it yet. First step is, what everybody does, is to modify the throttle return and the throttle stop spring. It's buried inside there. You won't see it clearly until I can take this piece off. And then after we do that, we're going to try and lift this tank up to get to the governor spring, and then zip tie that closed so that the governor won't activate, and we should be able to get a 17 to 20 mile an hour bike up to 25 to 26 mile per hour with just those free things to do. And this is what everybody does, so let's just start right now. I'm going to take this off, and no big surprise under here. I knew we were going to find that. This is a High Sun motor with their factory stock carburetor. A lot of people are doing amazing things with these 196 motors, so they're technically not really a bad motor. They're just not as good as, you know, some of the other motors you can get. So hopefully none of this stuff will get knocked over and fall down and make a mess. So we got to look inside here. So the first thing to do, I don't know if you can see that in here, there's two screws. We want to take those off so we can take this piece off, and we can better get to the stuff that's inside there, the guts that are inside. At least that's how it's supposed to work. Let's see if that actually happens. So let's get our screwdriver. Let's get in there. Let's see if we can make magic happen. Okay, so we're going to lift that part off. Put that up here. Put the screws inside there so you don't lose it. Alright, so now you can get to everything. This spring, this nut right here, this screw, I don't know if you can see that. This screw right here needs to be either backed out, but it looks like they got weld on it, some kind of weld or something on there. So we see if we can break it. If we can't break it, then we're going to try and bend that down so it's out of the way. So do you think that that's to keep people from doing what you're trying to do? It's to limit the speed for these things. So you see right now I'm activating this, and it's stopping on there. It won't go any further. Yeah, but I mean, why is the weld on there? That's to keep people from backing that screw out and adjusting it. Because they're designed, I don't know why they do it, but I guess the biggest market for these things is California. So they do everything based on what California allows, and the rest of the country has to deal with it. So California doesn't allow any adjustments at all whatsoever, and we're going to try and get around that. Alright, so that is welded in there, so we're going to have to bend that tab down. Let's see if I can do it without taking the whole assembly off. I'm going to need to get around you there for a second. Here. Alrighty, so let's see if we can do this without causing havoc and mayhem. Ideally, what you want to do is just break that off altogether, and I might just do that here. Of course, I don't have enough room. Let's just see if we can break this off without removing that. Yeah, it's not allowed. Don't have enough range of movement in there. Alright, so I need to get some more tools out so I can I got to take this screw off, and that should allow this whole piece to come off. I got to take this off and this off. So let me go get those. Look like 8 millimeters. Alrighty, this is what we're going to use. This is a 1/4" drive ratchet. Got an extension. We got a 10mm socket here. We got an 8mm socket here. And the 8mm is going to be used down here. The 10mm is going to be used there. So first we're going to try and take this off and see if I can get this thing broken without having to remove anything else. And you want to remember how all this goes, because you got to put it all back the same way again when you're done. All the parts have to go back on, come off in an order, and go back on in the same order.
So a smart group of people would actually film what they're doing so they can review the film.
Right, so smart people who work on these bikes should have YouTube channels.
Should have YouTube channels.
Because you got to film everything you're doing. Alright, so off comes that. We put everything up in this little bucket, little thing right here, bouquet. Then this is going to come off. Remember that this little notch thing here goes in this little section right here when you go to put it back. This washer comes off. This piece comes off the post. And we've got springs. This is the governor. One end of the governor spring is attached here. So look where it goes. And you got to put it back on that same spot again. And we put everything back together. So for now we're going to put it there and then hook it there so we don't lose it. Alrighty, so I'm going to leave that on for right now because my purpose here is to break this tab off. There you go. Throw that out of the way. Alrighty, so, and there's another white thing down here. Leave that. See that there? Just leave that where it is. Now, to get to this governor, so we can zip tie the governor, we got to lift the tank off. In order to do that, we got to get this bolt, and I think this bolt as well. But let's try this one first and see what happens. And for that, we need the 8mm socket.
Now that gas tank's full of gas?
Yeah, it's probably got 2/3 full, so just got to be careful how high you lift it. Make sure you don't pull the fuel line loose. I just need to lift it enough to move it up out of the way so I can get to the spring.
It's going to be like a two-man job?
It might be, but I think I should be able to do it without extra pair of hands. We'll see. So put that there. Now does this assembly move? The tank is not going to move. Alright, so we got to try and get that one as well. I think we're going to have to move this. So let's move that out of the way.
So the one bolt is on the bracket, but the other bolt is in the block.
The bracket to the tank, and then the tank to the block, it looks like. Though I don't know. Yeah, this one goes right through the block and into the tank, it looks like. So this has to come off as well. And then there's going to be two on the front that got to come off, but I believe those are 10mm. Let's get that out of the way. Remove the spark plug. Get that out of the way. This might be too long of an extension, so let's get that off. Alright. That was not on there super tight, folks. Okay, so that back there should be loose. Definitely feels loose. So now these front ones appear to be 10. So we'll switch back to our 10mm socket.
You want to hit the camera and show where they're at, because won't be able to get down there.
All right, so there's a bolt here that a ground wire goes to. And then there's another bolt right here, and you got to take both of those off in order to lift the tank up. And then when you put it back together, we got to make sure you have that ground cable back on there in the same spot. Alrighty, the only hiccup in this plan now is this screw right here may be causing issues, but we don't know yet. I got the 2 bolts off the front, the 10 millimeters off the front. The sides are all done. Theoretically, this tank should be able to lift at least a couple inches, and so I can move it up out of the way. Remember, it's got fuel in it, so you ought to be careful.
We got the fuel hose, fuel line.
Yeah, we don't want to undo that. We don't want to kink it or do anything.
It's funny there's no like clamp. Oh, there is a little tiny clamp. Okay.
Yeah, there is a little clamp. So this is the spring we're talking about right here. This guy right here is the one we want to zip tie.
That black one?
Yes.
Got it.
Now we want to get...
There's black one on the black motor.
Right, makes everything hard to film. Alright, so there's a couple theories. People have different ideas on how they want to do it.
Well, however you did it before, don't do that again because you didn't gain any speed out of it.
Yeah, I think there was issues with that other motor that was beyond what we were able to see, and we didn't have the bike long enough to test any of those theories. So now the thing here is basically what you want to end up with is you're going to have the head here, you're going to have this head, the body of the spring, and then this head. So basically it's going to be like this, and then they're going to pull tight and then make that spring stay closed, which turns off the governor, deactivates the governor, and I got to remember how that's done.
Remember, Californians, don't do this.
Right, Californians, yeah, you live in Nazi country, so here in my state we can do anything we want. Alright, so I got to remember how this is done. May end up blowing through a couple of zip ties till I can figure out how it was done, yeah. Alright. So I think I remember, okay. So this has to go this way.
It's very hard because you're using black zip ties on a black spring.
Yep.
With a black background.
And then this one has to go this way. Come on, get off of there. Alright. And this one zip ties into here. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. And then this guy.
So what's keeping you from removing the spring and just tying the end?
Because then the arm inside the motor will start flopping around, and this thing basically cuts your throttle off.
Right.
So you want to zip tie the spring to eliminate the activation of the arm inside. And this now, with the spring fully compressed inwards, as I move the throttle, this thing will not move enough to activate the governor inside, and that's the theory. That's the theory. And it's worked on 90% of other people's stuff, so we're hoping it's going to work here as well.
So, okay, so the silver, what's the silver thing?
This is the arm that attaches to the arm that goes down into the engine, which attaches to the governor wheel.
Right.
There's a wheel inside that has little weights on it, and little flappers, and when the engine reaches a certain RPM, the centrifugal force opens up the little flaps, and it engages the metal, the gear inside, plastic gear. That engages on a gear that's on the crankshaft, and that limits how much RPM you can make, effectively cutting off your throttle and limiting your RPM. And that's done because these are considered industrial motors, and you don't want to have runaway high RPM motors on your industrial equipment because you could kill yourself. There's a metal flywheel in here that weighs about 8 pounds, maybe 9 pounds, and when it's spinning at 4,000 RPM, 5,000 plus RPM, it could break apart and explode out of this case and take your leg off. So everybody does the mods that fixes all this later down the road. We're just on the first steps of a 10 mod process. If I stick with this engine, I may upgrade to other engines, but for now, we're going to work on this
flywheel. It's not going to blow apart at 4,000 RPM.
This flywheel is good for at least 3,600 RPM. I'm assuming people have gotten it up to 4,200 RPM with no problem. Anything past that, and you start floating the valves, because the valves inside the head are not designed to go that kind of RPM. They're too light. So there's a whole step. There's processes. They're called stages that you take your engine through in order to achieve maximum power that these things are capable of. So we're gonna cut that excess off.
Yeah, because it boggles the mind that 196 cc can't do more than 12 miles an hour.
Right. Well, they govern the heck out of it to make sure you can't. Oh no, the spring broke. Alright, so I have a kit that had some replacement springs and arms for just this emergency, and I believe this spring is long enough to replace this spring. Let's go this way. So, whatever was there. So I believe we're good. We're going to be good, and I'm just going to go ahead and replace that, which is stupid because the whole point of this is to eliminate it anyways, but I can't do the return. Throttle return without it. The whole process is intertwined, interconnected.
So an intricate lattice work of zip ties would not work. You'd actually still have a spring that needs to function. You're just limiting the spring.
Well, now the spring is when you zip tie it, it stops the governor working, but it's still being used to help bring the throttle back. So I now have to do this over again. This time I'm going to zip tie it and clip it out here.
Just for anybody who knows how a GoPro 7, you turn off the screen sleep function. It always wants to turn on every 15 to 20 seconds while you're trying to film. You know how to turn that off, let me know, because I've been going through all the settings and I can't figure out how to turn that off. I constantly have to reach over here and tap the screen to turn it back on so I can see what I'm filming. It's very annoying.
Okay, I gotta make sure I'm turning this the correct way. So it's gonna go that way, this gotta go this way. Okay, flies. What the hell?
Yeah, now the flies come.
Let's not repeat what we just did and break the spring. Alrighty. So we got that. Got that. Now we're gonna zip this together. I'm sure there's people laughing at me right now saying, oh, there's much easier ways of doing that, but you know what? There it is. Now we're going to cut that. Pull you through and eliminate you all there. Now we're going to pull this together. Alrighty, spring is now fully compressed. Cannot go any further. So now we're going to cut this little tip off here. See, right around here. Alright, that is a fully compressed spring. A lot of people I've seen on videos put it on this end one here, where they drill another hole and put it over here. I'm just going to put it on this end one right here. If I can do that. without breaking it. There we go. Okay. Now we got to reattach it back to this thing, but to do that, I think we got to put it all back together. So I just want to make sure we're in the correct area before I start screwing everything back together. That went on that thing right there, didn't it? Alright, so let's put the tank back on. Hey. You never know, you might need a blooper. Okay, so why is that not lining up? I know you can't see it, but I am tightening up the bolts that are on the gas tank on the front, and they were loose when I took them off. I barely had to tap the socket for them to come off, so they were not tight from the dealership when the dealership assembled the bike. No, that was...
Maybe your bad motor scootering for the 5 miles loosened them.
That could have very well been. And as very good point bringing that up, you should always, every time you go out and ride, you should always check all your bolts and stuff before you go out, because you never want to be on a ride and have this going 30 miles an hour and have this thing fall apart on you while you're riding. So you always want to make sure.
Or 13.
Or 13. Well, hopefully after today we're at least 25. That's my goal. We're at least 25 miles an hour.
How are we going to check that? I don't have like a speed gun, so am I supposed to drive next to you?
If you want to. Otherwise I can just go by traffic. I can find a road that's got a 25 mile an hour speed limit, and if everybody is inching away from me, then I'm doing at least 25. Alright, so those two are on, that's back on. Let us...
Or I'll just walk to the store, and if I beat you,
then I definitely wasn't doing...
Your job is not done.
There is that method. Alright, so while we're doing that, let's get this spring back on while I got this off and can get to it.
Is that little bracket underneath there?
It's this little thing right here it's got a hook to. So let's hold out with my finger while I get this all back into place. Alright. That's on. Let's get this here. Now this little plastic piece has got to go back on. Slips back on over there. And it goes one way. There's an indent going inwards and an out dent. And its indent's got to match that. So you got to make sure you put it back on the correct way. Then this little arm's got to go back on.
So the indent goes down?
Yeah, where this indent is, it goes up into the cup right here.
Fits over that.
Fits over that right there.
That. So you got fits over it like a cap.
Exactly. So you got to put that back on the right way. Then you got to put this on and make sure it engages. These little forks wrap around this piece right here, right, just like that.
All right.
And then we got to put the nut back on.
I know people who do this all day for a living
Are bored and
won't find this
right
interesting, but not everybody does this. There's a lot of DIY people out there.
Exactly.
Or DIY. So,
all right. So we got to put the 10mm back on for this one.
oh, and for police who are investigating any stolen bikes, this is where the VIN tag is right there underneath the seat.
Just in case you were out there looking for Speedy.
Just in case.
We're not saying that you're not, but I also haven't heard back from you guys.
Yeah, it's been a couple months, or a month or so.
So something deep down inside tells me you're not really searching that hard.
I bet if I go look on YouTube, I'll find like 10 videos of it.
I go to Facebook Marketplace. I go to Craigslist. I look every day for BT200x's, no matter the color, because they could have changed the color. They could have done all kinds of creepy shit.
I think it's in one of those. You'll find it probably in one of those videos of the street where they close the street and do all the little bike rally, mini bike rally.
We'll see.
I think that's where you'll find it.
All right, so the secret to here is you don't want to crank this down too tight. You want to have some play. You want to be able to move. You want to be able to work your throttle. All right, so that spring is awfully tight. You're not getting full extension there, so I might want to adjust this just a hair. See, that's full throttle right there.
Right.
But that spring doesn't allow that. You have to really crank down to get to that.
So maybe you should just really crank down to get to that.
Right. There's got to be a way to adjust it, but I'm not going to mess with it right now. I'll just crank down if I have to.
That's a different video.
That's a different video, yeah. All right, so I also don't want to flip the carb. Alrighty, so that is moving fine. Let's put everything back together and see how we do. We got to put the spark plug back on. Because once everything goes back on, it's a pain in the butt to get to.
Now remember, wipe up any extra gas in case you tipped your gas tank or something.
Yep, you don't want this thing to turn into a flaming bomb on you.
Because it's right between your legs. I don't know, you like to think that you're hot.
But you're not.
But you're not.
When you're hot, you're hot. Yeah. When you're not, you're not. Alrighty, so let's get these screws back in. Try not to drop them down into the carburetor, because then your day would really suck.
Just go buy the upgraded carburetor?
Yes, definitely want to do that. Even if you do no other thing to this bike, you want to definitely get the upgraded carburetor.
Take the Quadrajet, Holly Quad.
Yeah, right. I think a 750 double pumper.
Double pumper should work.
Absolutely.
That should be swell.
That should work just marvelous. Alrighty, so those are back on. That's still tight. Let's get the air dongle back in. Where are you, dongle? There. Now, a crafty thing people have been doing is they drill a whole bunch of holes in here.
Ooh.
To allow more air to come in, and that just helps a little bit.
You gonna crafty that?
I am not gonna crafty that right now in this video.
Oh.
Because wait, don't do what I just did and forget to put the wing nut on.
Ooh. Not that it matter. Why don't you just leave the filter off and you can...
I don't want to pull dirt into the engine screwed up. Because right now with this thing on, this here and this here is how air is getting into the motor. It comes up in here and goes in. So if you crack a few more holes in here, you help it out. I don't know if you're going to have to rejet it after that. I don't know if it allows in so much air that you have to rejet it to compensate. But everything is in increments. That's why they call them stages. So when you upgrade the carb, you upgrade the exhaust. You do what I just did, where you cut out the governor and modify that spring, the throttle stop, and then you should be able to get some more speed out of it. Alrighty, I think we're time for a test drive. Okay, we've done everything, all the modifications, put it back together. This is the proper way to start something. Anytime you mess with the carburetor or the springs or linkages or anything, you want to put the front of your bike against an immovable object before you start it, because if something here is screwed up and the bike tries to take off as soon as you start it, you don't want to cause a bunch of mayhem. So
like just fly out into traffic at its amazing 13 miles per hour,
and then take out a bus,
take out
or something.
not the children.
All right, so carburetor on, choke is on for the first startup, power is on. Let's go.
I hear a noise I don't know. I smell gas.
The noise is the clutch spinning in here, so that's okay.
No, when you were first hitting the gas, I heard like a hissing noise. There we go.
Alright, so something's wrong because it doesn't want to run with the choke off.
I smell an awful lot of gas.
Yeah, so hopefully we didn't flood it out with all that stuff I was doing. So let's try and run it a little while more. I might also want to check the oil and make sure that it didn't overflow the bowl and go into the crankcase, but let's try it now and see.
Remember your one throttle spring that was catching?
This one here, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the way off. I think it was just us playing with the throttle. I probably flooded it.
Right.
Let's just let it sit and do its thing for a minute.
Yeah, I don't smell gas anymore.
Alright. I think whatever issue we're having, I think it worked itself out.
You give it a try?
Go take this thing for a spin.
You want to do a maiden voyage and then come back and we'll do a speed test?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do something real quick around the park and then we'll go and do a outside run.
Alright.
Should have a camera on for this, but I don't have one at the moment. Report back and it's hefty. Definitely peppy.
Okay.
Definitely got some more juice.